The Douglas B-26 Invader was the only U.S. Air Force combat aircraft to be used in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. The Douglas Invader entered service in 1943 as the A-26. There was already a B-26, the Martin Marauder. In World War II, there were two versions of the Douglas Invader, one with a solid nose and one with a see-through plexiglass nose. Both versions had a crew of 3. The Invader had only one pilot. There was no co-pilot. The plexiglass version had a bombardier navigator and a bomb sight. In the solid nose version, there was only a navigator who sat next to the pilot. Both versions had one gunner who, through a remote control system, operated a small top and bottom gun turrets. In World War II, a total of 2,452 Invaders were produced. All production stopped in 1945 at the end of the war. After World War II, the Martin B-26 Marauder was retired from service. At that time, the Douglas Invader's designation of A-26 was changed to B-26. The Douglas B-26 Invader was used in the Korean War, 1950 to 1953. Both versions, the solid nose and the plexiglass nose, were used. In 1954, the B-26 Invader was retired from service with the regular U.S. Air Force. It continued in service with reserve units until 1958. Remaining aircraft were then sent to the Air Force's storage facility in Tucson, Arizona, sometimes called the Boneyard. In 1961, a dozen B-26s of the solid nose variety were removed from the Boneyard and sent back into combat in South Vietnam. These were officially South Vietnamese Air Force airplanes, but were really flown into combat by U.S. Air Force pilots. These Invaders were flown from bases in South Vietnam and carried out attacks against communist guerrillas inside South Vietnam. In 1964, the Invaders were again retired from service because their old wings suffered from metal fatigue. The U.S. Air Force then had about 43 solid nose versions of the Invader modernized. This involved doing such things as reinforcing the wings, installing modern avionics, installing more powerful engines, and installing wingtip fuel tanks. Also, for the first time, dual flight controls were installed. These modernized Douglas Invaders were designated Model K and returned to official U.S. Air Force service in 1966. The Invader was once again designated as the A-26. The A-26 Model K is sometimes referred to as the Counter Invader. The A-26 Invaders flew out of bases in Thailand. They attacked mostly communist supply lines referred to as the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos. They could linger in the area looking for targets longer than any jets could. In 1969, the Douglas A-26 Invader was once again retired from service with the regular U.S. Air Force. However, a few continued service with Air National Guard units until 1972. By that time, the plane was nearly 30 years old. Specifications for the Douglas A-26K Invader are: crew of 2, pilot and co-pilot, length 51.5 feet, wingspan 71.5 feet, height 19 feet at the top of the tail, loaded weight 38,314 pounds, speed 323 miles per hour, range 2,700 miles, ceiling, 30,000 feet. Power plants, 2 radial piston engines, each capable of 2,500 horsepower with water injection. Armament, 8 50 caliber machine guns in the nose. It could carry 8,000 pounds of bombs or rockets under the wings. Another 4,000 pounds of bombs could be carried internally in a bomb bay.